Clement with Kathy by Design. I am so excited you could join me here today. I have been busy creating another really fun folio design. This is an itty bitty. This one is just 5.5 by 4. I made this with some scraps of heavy duty craft cardstock that were on my work table, and rather than put them away, I thought I'm going to make something fabulous with this. This is for the Frilly and Funky Challenge blog. I'm the hostess for these next 2 weeks for the Harvest of Gratitude challenge. I've started an annual tradition for the past probably, I don't know, a lot of years, where I make a gratitude journal every day. It's just a little place to write down good memories, answered prayers, happy thoughts, just to remind myself that this is a good life. So this is my good life mixed media gratitude journal. And my secret weapon here again is this Tim Holtz Sizzix 3D Texture Fade, the Botanical. Y'all, I love this thing and I can't seem to stop using it. That's how I made this gorgeous cover, along with some Seth Apter embossing powders and distress paints and some different mediums, and we'll go into all of that in the tutorial. But here's the cover. I used Graphic 45's French Country DCE. This is just a tiny image stitched onto burlap, a little tag from the collection, a key I had in my stash, this brass monocle that I think I got this from Canvas Core way back, some little birdie flowers, some petaloo. These are mustard seeds from my spice cabinet. And I just layered this all up. I kept the cover pretty simple because I wanted this background to really show. So inside, of course, this is a little interactive album. The front cover is a pocket, and you'll learn how to do all these elements. I created a little insert just with scraps, room here to write thankful quotes, thankful thoughts, put a little picture, and this just tucks in the pocket. This is like, you could keep this on your desk so that when you have a thankful thought, you can write it down. This is just a scrap of that craft cardstock. This is what it started out as. And I kept this little scrap and used it here as a border piece. This is a button. I think I got this at the Funkie Junkie boutique. And a little tassel that I made with twine. And this is a pocket. And because this is small, these 4x6 images from the DCE won't fit. But if you score them and fold them in half, it gives you another little place to write down thankful thoughts or quotes that you like. Then this page flips out. Isn't that fun? And here's this glorious fall harvest paper with sunflowers and fruits and leaves. And then these are just little tuck spots. This is from the sticker sheet that comes with the DCE, and it just tucks back in behind this bee image. Y'all know I love my bees. Crumpled up this postage stamp to create another little tuck spot for this image. And again, you could add, if you backed this with cream cardstock, you could add quotes there or a photo, whatever. So this closes. And this folds out, and we have a double fold-out page, flap page. And I just love how this looks. This is so fun. I used this little chip from the collection as a stopper. So this is a little pull-out page. Isn't that sweet? So this folds like this and opens like this. These little sayings are Tim Holtz snippets, love those. And then there's room in here to add photos, journaling, whatever you like. This is another fun cut apart image that I folded in half. It's got room for little photos on the back or little thank you lists. And again in here, gorgeous sticker snippets, tuck spot made with a tag. And this is another one of those glorious 4x6 images that I just scored and folded in half with room for journaling on the back side. So it's kind of almost like a hybrid junk journal, if you will. There are 2 page units, and each page unit has a fun little pocket. So I scored this image from the collection, and it just fits right in here in the pocket. And again, you'll learn how to make these page units and all the inserts and everything in the tutorial that follows. So this is the last page in the first page unit, and this is an insert page. And I just created this lovely little insert folio with room for photos, for you to do journaling, and then there's room here also. This is just a fussy cut from the signature page. Then over here we have another one of these fun little pocket pages. I matted this sticker on craft cardstock, and this just tucks in the pocket. And then this is fun. This is one of the old style Graphic 45 policy envelopes that I found in my stash. I layered this up with a chipboard, this Muse token from Tim Holtz. Then this flips up. There's another little journal spot here, and then there's a secret stash inside the pocket for special little secret stashy things. So that flips open, a little framed image, and this is open behind. I'll just show you so you can put your photo in there. And then I backed the sticker, turned it into a tuck spot, just made a little tag with a scrap. This is one of my favorite things to do. I love putting together little albums like this. This is the other tip out page. This one is the gorgeous sunflowers with just some stickers decorated on the front. Pretty simple. And then in the pocket, I used the other, this is actually a scrap of, craft cardstock that I dressed up with designer papers to create just another little tiny journaling spot. Isn't that pretty? So that just tucks in this pocket, and the tag hangs out because I like the way that looks. And then this is the last page, which is again another insert page, just dressed up, layered simply. Here's a neat trick. I just cut this sticker button in half, put half of above and below, border strips from the paper collection, and just lots of room there. Another sweet little framed sticker, and again open on the back side. And then this is the back pocket, and this is the other little policy envelope that I dressed up. These are retired. They don't make this size anymore, but I found them as I was going through my stash, and I thought this is perfect size. And then just another scored and folded 4x6 image from the collection. So hang around. We're going to start by building the album base. I'll show you how to do that, how to create this super cool spine. Then we'll do the mixed media stuff. I'll show you how to use this folder. We'll put together the first set of papers so you will know how to make this journal pretty much start to finish. I don't show you how I decorate because the video is going long, but hang around. We're going to have some fun and get our craft on. Okay, so let's get started building the base for this little gratitude album. This is a 4-inch by 17-inch piece of really heavy craft cardstock. It's almost the thickness of light chipboard. I get this at envelopes.com. I'll put the link below. They call it grocery bag weight, but it's heavier than that. It's really heavy. So place this on your scoring tool on the long side, and you're going to score first at 5 inches, and then every ½ inch all the way down to 11½ inches, and I pre-did that. And you really need to score this on both sides with this heavy cardstock. Then flip it over, and you're going to add score tape starting with the 3rd valley to every other one. So then we're going to take this, and this is going to form our little spine. So remove the paper and just pinch this together. And I can see I switched sides halfway through, but you'll get the idea. So we're just pinching these together. And this is going to form our little tabs on the inside to add our pages. And we have one more, because this is just a little book. I didn't want anything enormous, but I make a gratitude album every fall. It's become kind of a tradition for me. So then once you get that glued together, this is what the back looks like, and this is what the inside looks like. And I like to take my bone folder and just burnish it down in both directions, and this ensures that those tabs are going to turn well, and it also helps secure that score tape to the back. Now you can use liquid adhesive if you want. I have a little trouble with that because you know how liquid adhesive moves? Well, it moves with this too. So there we have it. Now you're going to say, well, on the end you've got this extra piece. Don't worry about that right now. Now I want to bring this cover around. And do you see where I added a little piece of score tape right here? We're just going to bring this around and seal it like that. And then we're going to do the same thing on the back side. That's on the last 1/2 inch score. So now we've got this sweet little book. Can you see that? So you have 2 tabs. These tabs are here. This is just to reinforce the spine. And you've got a score line here, but we're going to cover that. That's not going to be seen, so it's not a problem. But this creates a really sturdy little base. The page units, the first thing we have to do is you're just going to trim a little triangular piece off of each of your tabs. And because this has to be small enough, the tabs have to be small enough for those pages to fit over. So do you see what I've done? And this is not like super precision, you just cut those. So see a little angle here, a little angle here, and that's created these little tabs that our page unit is going to fit over. So this is the page unit, and I'll show you how to make it. It folds into this neat little package, and then this is just going to slide over this tab. That's why we had to trim the tab, and we'll adhere it with glue. And then what you get is a turn page, a pocket page, a page, and a turn page on each unit. So I'll show you how to make the page unit. So this is an 8.5 by 11 piece of just plain craft cardstock. It's probably about 100 pound, 85 to 100 pound weight. So not super thin, but not super thick. And we want our inside pages to measure 4 3/4, which this one does, by 3 3/4. And that way it's going to sit down inside our book and the pages aren't going to hang out the edges. So the formula for this is you want to double the width and the height of your pages. So 3 3/4 plus 3 3/4 is altogether now 7 1/2. So we're going to trim this 8.5 inch piece of paper to 7.5 inch width. Then 4 3/4 is what we want our inside page to be. So 4 3/4 plus 4 3/4 is 9.5. Very good, class. Doing our fractions together this morning. So we end up with a 7.5 by 9.5 sheet of cardstock. So now you bring in your scoring tool, and on the short side, you're going to score this at 3 3/4, which is the midpoint, correct? Then turn it on the long side, and you're going to score it at 4 3/4, which is the midpoint. Use a bone folder, fold this down, and burnish really well along that crease. And fold this over, and again, burnish really well. Now, our binding is on the side for this album. So, we want to cut on this 3 1/4 inch horizontal line down to this 4 3/4 inch vertical line with our cutting tool. This is a little tricky the first time you do it, but once you've done it a couple of times, it becomes second nature, and you'll love this because it lets you add lots of pages. So I'm lining up my cutting tool here on the 4 3/4 inch line, and I'm just cutting down to the end. Then, with the cut on the left, you're going to fold your paper down, burnish it, take this flap on the left, fold it to the right. Take the flap on the left, fold it to the back. And there's your page unit. Isn't that nifty? So to create this pocket, I like to use score tape. So here we are, right? Just open this up, and in between these two pages, the reason I like to use score tape or red liner tape, either one, I had an 1/8 of an inch wide score tape here somewhere, but it has disappeared, so we'll use this crafty power tape. I like to use this because it doesn't spread. And we're just going to put that down there, burnish it down, trim it off with our scissors. And we're going to do the exact same thing here. So here's our little bundle, and we're just going to flip it up. And lost the end of my tape. There it is. Just run this little 1/8 of an inch piece of adhesive right along that bottom edge and trim it off. Nice and neat. Then remove the liner. This is the hardest part, folks. I don't know why I struggle with this so much, but I do. Okay, I think I got it. Then you're just going to fold this down right on top of that. Nice as you please. And burnish it. And look, there's your pocket in the middle. Super easy. And then you've got this opening over here on the left. And I'm going to place adhesive on both sides of my tab. And I'm going to slip this little opening on the left right down over that tab. Get it centered top and bottom. And then just hold it in place a little bit. And burnish that down. Now look. There it is. Page, page, pocket, page, page, page. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages with each page unit, which is really cool. So we'll just do this again so you can see. Here's our tape. Then we're just going to fold this down, burnish it. So see, everything is good. Here's our opening over here on the left. Adhesive on the tab. Then just kind of pop that open. And that's why we trimmed those tabs down, so that this would fit nicely over the top, and then just line it up top and bottom, and then I'm just pressing it to secure it. So there's our little book. Isn't that cool? So we have 12 pages in this little book with just 2 tab hinges in there. Now we're going to work on decorating the cover, covering the cover, and I'll get my stuff together, clean some of this up, and I'll be right back. Before I start adding papers, I want to go ahead and just distress the edges a little bit. This is a tonic paper distressor, and you're just going to run this a few times along the edges. You don't have to get crazy. We just want to add a little roughness, a little texture along here, front and back. And then also the inside pages, which are easier to distress because it's a much lighter weight of paper. So once everything is distressed, this is the quickest way I have found to ink edges. This is ground espresso distress stain, and I just activated it there on my craft sheet. And then I'm just going to go along the edges of the cover, the spine area, just to make sure everything has that nice dark finish. Okay, I'm going to try to do this next part on camera. It's really tight quarters, so I don't usually emboss on camera. But this is the Tim Holtz 3D Texture Fade. This is the Botanical folder, which is my personal favorite. I just think it's gorgeous. So when you open this, there's a recessed side and there's a raised side. I cut this, this is to cover our spine. And I cut this 4.5 by 4 piece of that same heavy craft, scored it at 1.5 and 3 inches. And I'm just going to put it in this folder. I'm not going to wet it or anything. And my sandwiches, I have a big shot. So I've got the number 1 tab up. This is what I found works best for my machine. And then 1 plate. But my machine's a little old. So, you know, adjust it for yours. And I know 3, but I can't go out the right hand side. I don't have room, so I'm going to come back. But with the 3D embossing folders, you go through 3 times. And then we open this up, and look at that. Is that not incredible? Can you see all that gorgeous texture? And I love how it looks on craft. So let me just clear this out of the way. I also want to do a couple of panels with this. So let me just tuck this in there. And these are just 4 by 5.5 panels of that same heavy craft. And what I have found with this Botanicals folder is that heavy paper actually really embosses a whole lot better than thin paper. So look, gorgeous. And you can use either side depending on what look you want. So see, this scored piece is just going to fit right over the spine and strengthen it, which I like that idea. Next thing I want to do is just hit this with some Versamark or whatever embossing ink you like to use. I'm a huge fan of Versamark, and I'm just really pressing this down in there. I want to hit all these raised areas, but I also want to leave some of the craft. So this one I'm just tapping, and we'll just play and see what happens. That's half the fun, right? There's that one. So now comes the fun part. We're going to emboss these. This is Emerald Creek Burnt Copper and Seth Apter Baked Texture Patina Oxide. So I'm going to start with the burnt copper, and I always like to shake these up a little bit because they have little bits in there. And I'm going to just shake this over my panel. Then I want to, normally I don't do that with embossing powder, but I want kind of an uneven finish on this. And I'm just heating up my heat tool before I get started. And with this chunky embossing powder, you want to heat emboss from underneath to start with, because those large particles will fly, and then it gets very exciting. So I like to kind of get it started from the underneath, and then I switch it to the top. And you can see it's starting to turn. You have to keep your heat gun moving so you don't set your paper on fire. I've done that. It's a very exciting moment. And heat embossing always works best if you hold the item you're embossing up so that it's not trying to heat through a solid surface. So I recommend that. All right, so I'm just going to get this corner real good. Dip it right here into my tray. If you don't have one of these trays, you can just use folded paper. But this stuff is kind of a pain to clean up, so catch it on something. Wowzers, I love that. Look at that. That's going to be a gorgeous spine for this. This wants to tear, but I'll fix that with score tape. We won't worry about that. Now, this is cool. So I'm just going to lightly skim over the surface. So now that I've just kind of lightly tapped that with the Versamark, I'm going to hit this with some patina oxide to make it look like oxidized copper. That's our hope. We'll see. I haven't done this yet, so we'll see how it works. And again, normally I would not flick like this, but I want uneven coverage. I'm even going to go in with my finger and brush some away, because I don't want it to be all patina oxide. I just want it to be part of it. I don't know if the camera picks that up, but people, this is like gorgeous, beyond gorgeous, beyond gorgeous. So I'm going to do the same process with these two panels, and I'll be back. These are done. I love how they turned out. I hope the camera can pick that up. It's really amazing. So what I want to do is come in now with a little sanding tool, and I want to make sure I don't sand my craft mat. This is just little styrofoam blocks. And I just want to knock this back a little bit, especially along the edges, because I don't want it to be quite so shiny. I just want to knock that back a little. So I've got some paints. This is Wild Honey and Rusty Hinge and peeled paint and dried marigold. Actually, I don't think I want to use the dried marigold. It's a bit too bright. So I'm just going to dip my finger in here, and then I'm going to tap it off on my, and I'm just going to go in and tap in, especially on top of the embossed areas, the raised embossing from the embossing folder. This is also bringing in those beautiful harvest colors. I'm going to come in with this green. I think that's going to really look great. And then finally just a little bit of this Wild Honey, but this is a strong color, so you want to go real easy with this one. Okay guys, so we're back for day 2. I left you yesterday and I was working on finishing off this cover. We had added the dabs of distress paint, and it was still a little too shiny for me. So I decided to try to tone it down with Distress Collage Medium Vintage. So I just brushed that over all the panels, and then I decided I wanted it to look a little more aged, so I used the Crazing Medium. And then I had to let that sit overnight and just get really happy. Then this morning, can you see the incredible detail in that? Sometimes the camera picks it up, sometimes it doesn't. But this morning I came in with ground espresso, distress stain, and just kind of saturated the top of the whole thing, which is going to freak you out because, you know, you're covering everything up. But you just let that sit there for a second or two, then come back with a paper towel and wipe it off. And do you see how all that dark stain got down into the crazed areas and created these wonderful highlights and lowlights and shadows? And that is exactly the look that I wanted. So then I just adhered my covers front and back, and then we made this little spine piece. Before I hooked this on, I poked holes through it and added these great big copper brads that I had in my stash because I just love copper in the fall. I don't know what it is about it, but I love copper in the fall. So I've done a lot of prep work before coming back, and hopefully we can move right along with this. But the paper collection I'm working with is French Country. This just wanted to be a French Country album. I tried other things and I just didn't have any success. So I gave in to the muse and just went with French Country. So this is one of the little images from the cut apart page. And I stitched it onto some burlap and fringed the edges. It's been backed with waste packaging, which is one of my favorite tricks. And I'm just going to add some hot glue to the back of this, which my glue is almost not quite hot enough, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. And I just want to put this, I want to keep this cover fairly simple because I don't want to cover up all that gorgeous mixed media in the background. So this will be one of my less frilly funky projects. And then this is a chipboard piece from the French Country Deluxe Collector's Edition, which I'm not sure if you can get this anymore or not. Perhaps you can. Most of us have it in our stash, most of us Graphic 45 lovers. So what I did was I just put a little piece of chipboard on the back of that because I wanted to level out the height difference between my sunflowers and this. So I'm going to put my hot glue on the back of that and also on the chipboard, and then this is just going to sit down in this corner. And then this is a monocle that I had, a brass optic piece that I had in my stash. And I just traced around some of the pears in the paper, cut them out, and then I just pressed them into the back. And I can see I need to trim just a tiny bit here, but I love this look. And then I want this to sit right here. So I think I'm going to need another little piece of this chipboard. Adding height to an element really helps give it presence in a, you know, just like the king's throne was always higher than everybody else. There was a reason for that. You could see him. So height adds prominence to a project. Just hold that in place so that will set. And then this is from the Tim Holtz little, what are these called? I can never remember what these are called, but I love them. I use them all the time. Clippings, stickers. And I picked this one that says Good Life. And I just want to, and I backed this with a little bit of waste chipboard. Again, the same principle of height equals presence. So Good Life right there. And before I go any further, I have this lovely twine from Little Birdie Crafts, and I just want to wrap this. Hopefully this will cooperate with me and unravel nicely. I want to wrap this around this area. I'm going to leave a long enough piece at the end. I just want to wrap this around here. I think it's going to be a really perfect finishing touch. I haven't tried this yet, but it will do two things. It will help hide the union between that added spine. It adds some lovely texture and color, which I love adding textiles to a project. And then I can also add a bit of a bow with this, which y'all know how I feel about my bows. So what I've done is taken one of the little chipboard tags that come in the DCE, and I've strung it through this twine along with a little key. And I'm going to try to tie this whole thing together up in the corner. This is always easier to do when you're not on camera. Everything goes wrong when you're on camera. It's just a rule. You get used to it. If you're going to drop something, break something, lose something, it's going to happen when you're on camera. All right, so I just tied a knot in that. Now I'm tying just a simple bow. And then I want to let these kind of hang down a little bit. Then also over here on this ocular, I just want to wrap this around the stem a couple times and add another little bow. All right, let's get on to the inside. And what I've done is pre-cut all of my pages to make this move along. And I've tucked them inside where they go. And I'm going to add just a tiny dot. Well, I'll come back and fuss that later. But you get the idea. I'll fuss with that later. Okay, so here's this twine on the inside. Here's a tip for you. I love this. Use design tape. This is Tim Holtz Ideology design tape. This is the Collector collection. And just run this along the edges, because what this does is it gives your page the appearance of having another whole paper layer without adding bulk. And in a little book like this, that's kind of important. So here I have a scrap, and you're going, yeah, but there's a big chunk cut out of it. Doesn't matter. It's going to be just fine, because this is going to be a little pocket page. So I'm just going to lay this down. And I'm not going to build this whole thing with you. I'm just going to do some of the basics and then finish it and come back and show you the finished project. But just to give you an idea. But the pages are all going to measure. I made myself a cheat sheet. What did I do with it? Because I don't do numbers, people. Okay, so the pages, the front pages are 4 7/8 by 3 7/8. So 4 7/8 wide by 3 7/8 tall. And then I cut a 5 7/8 piece of this red paper, because when you're doing a pocket, you always go an inch larger. Move this over to the side, and we'll just make a pocket together again. And you're going to score a 1/2 inch along the bottom, and move this over so you can get a 1/2 inch on each side, just like that. Crease that fold. And this is a little more complex. You can do simple pockets, and we'll do one of those on the back. This is a little more constructed because I want to be able to tuck some stuff in there when it's all said and done. But I'm just trimming out these corners, and I do that to remove bulk so that it folds nicely. Then on the back, you add your adhesive, fold the beveled side over, fold like this, bring your page in, and that's going to sit very nicely right there. I'm just pressing down to adhere. And I didn't cut a little hole here this time. This is a small pocket. There's no need to do that. So then this next page, and both sections are the same, so we're just going to do one section together, then I'll finish the other section. But I wanted this first page to be a pull-out page. So I cut a 12-inch by, hold on, where's my ruler? Yeah, 12 by, of course it's going to be 3.5, because all the inside pages are 3.5 inches tall. And then I scored this at 4.5 because all the inside pages are 4.5 by 3.5. So 12 inches by 3.5, score at 4.5, score at 9. You're going to adhere this back panel to the album base. And I'm going to open this so I can hopefully get this straight and in the right spot and all that good stuff. And that looks pretty good. And then just press that down. Then you're going to accordion fold this, and you can leave this as a flap, or you can do what I'm going to do. Add just a tiny bead of glue, and this becomes a side pocket. And then I took one of the 4x6 images from the collection, scored it in half, and this will tuck with any luck. Okay, we're going to have to trim it down a little bit, but that's not the end of the world. Bring in my Tonic paper trimmer. I love this guy. And just trim these edges down a little bit, and then trim the top to make it match. Okay, then this can tuck right into this little pocket, nice as you please now. So that's a good fit. And that was an easy fix. So this is a great place to write thankful thoughts. I love to collect quotes. Sometimes I like to make little quote books, but then you've got room here, and we'll decorate that up. But that's just basically to show you how to do the page assembly. Then these next two pages are tip-in pages or fold-out pages, whatever you want to call them. And I've cut these, again, these are 3.5 inches tall, and each panel is 7.5 inches long. So on the left-hand page, you're going to score at 3 inches, because that leaves you your 4.5, which fits the page size. And on the right-hand page, you're going to score at 4.5 inches. So these, we're just going to add our adhesive. And this is more of that design tape from that same collection I showed you. I changed it up a little bit just because I like change. I don't like everything same. And sometimes with these scored bits, you have to come back and kind of straighten them up a little bit, but no big deal. So that is how you do the tip-in pages. And again, I'm not going to decorate these now. I'm just showing you the basic construction here. And then you can, I'll come back and show you what I do with all of this. So again, there's a tip-in page in the second half, and dimensions are the same. So now we have our little pocket insert page that we created. And there's a lot of different things you could tuck in there. Turn the page, and this is going to be an insert page. So we're not going to do anything on these two pages. And I've lined this with 1/8 inch score tape. We're just going to remove those liners. And I've only lined the bottom and one edge. And then when you press these two pages together, and I think score tape or red line tape is a better adhesive for this because it doesn't spread out. Because you want to be able, so now see you've got your pocket here. Then you turn this page. This becomes an insert page. And I took a piece of my craft cardstock. I cut it to 4 1/4 inches wide by 7¼ inches long. I scored it at 3½ inches. And this is going to fit inside between those two pages. And then this becomes a really fun, and I might have to trim that down. I think I'm going to go ahead and take it to 4 because that's a little snug. So again, let's trim that down to 4, which means I'll have to trim down the liner papers too. So instead of 4¼ by 7½, do 4 by 7½. And sometimes it's hard to tell until you actually get, yeah, see that slides right in nicely. So that's going to be an insert. And then you just cut your papers to match that. So that's that page. And then that's the entire first section. I did cut a mat for this page, this fleur-de-lis. And we'll put that down if I can find my glue. And this is going to go right here. So what this does is this creates levels, layers for you. So you can add a photo here, you can add a sentiment here, you can, I'm just going to wipe some of this, I must have gotten glue on my fingers. I always keep a wet sponge handy. It's a good idea. And then you're just going to line these. Of course, I have to trim these down now. Second half, same as the first. I'm going to finish, then I'll come back, show you what I've done, and we'll take this thing home. Don't go away. Okay, I finished. I am so happy with the way this little guy turned out. And I got all my pages decorated, added extra little goodies from my stash, which is one of my favorite things to do. And now you know how to do this. Even if you don't create the entire project, you know how to create the base or the pages or inserts. I think there's a lot in this tutorial that you can use in your own crafty adventures. I'd love to hear your comments. I do respond to every single comment. I will link on my blog page measurements and all of that to make it easy for you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm wishing you joy and creativity, and now go get your craft on. Bye.